Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here on the channel today as the Edmonton Oilers fall to the Vegas Golden Knights last night at the bitter end of a hockey game 4-3. A crushing defeat, one might say, where the Oilers, quite honestly, were so close to getting the job done, yet, fall just short. So, whether you want to blame Stuart Skinner, whether you want to blame the defense, whether you want to blame the forwards for just not scoring enough goals, the answer, well, my friends, might simply be there's something else to it. So let's get digesting that here in a matter of moments. If you are new to the channel, right now I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button. We're closing in here on another subscriber milestone, kind of getting close to that 18,000 mark. So definitely would love to have you aboard. But for the Oilers, what's happened here on this last night that just passed is a little unfortunate. We were looking to roll up to 3-0 in the series so far. Stuart Skinner a chance to do that for us after 6 games off, and it would have just been a little bit of a storybook. However, I think the people that are most negative on Stuart Skinner would also sit here and say there is something else to the Edmonton Oilers when Skinner's in net. There is something else to kind of how this continues to happen with Skinner in the playoffs. And it is simply, I think, to sum it up, the Oilers, they might get bounces in a hockey game in which Stuart Skinner starts, but the Oilers just do not get the bounces they need to win. And again, like I think it's pretty clear, Stuart Skinner, although he doesn't make the save or even come close to making the save on the final puck that goes in the net, you get a bounce a little different there off Draisaitl's stick, and maybe the game remains tied and goes to overtime. So it's kind of one of those situations where you look at it and say, well, is that really all Skinner's fault or not? And I'm sitting here, I've talked about trading Stuart Skinner in the past week after the playoffs are over. I've talked about how, again, I didn't have much faith going into yesterday that Skinner was going to be able to deliver us to a win, but it is part and parcel with that. The Oilers just, when Skinner's in net and you need a critical win, when Skinner's in net and you want a victory out of the Oilers, it seems like that puck luck kind of goes against them. And you can say, well, Dolynny TV's sitting here talking about puck luck, and Connor McDavid tied the game off of a skate bounce off the Golden Knights. Fair enough. Yeah, sure. But was it enough to win? It wasn't. And what I'm talking about is the bounces that win you the game. And that's what every other team seems to get, or at least the tendency seems to be, when Stuart Skinner is in net. Now that is compounded by the fact that for some reason the defense is as awful as it can get sometimes, and it's only really in front of Stuart Skinner. And Pickard, he makes the save, sure, but Pickard seems to get a little bit more respect from the defense and from the forwards than Stuart Skinner does, right? When we're picking apart just how awful line changes were, just how awful defensive coverage was for this Edmonton Oilers team, most of the time it's with Stuart Skinner in net. And I'm not talking in these playoffs because obviously Calvin Pickard's had the majority of the starts, and what do? But again, right, as we're talking about the Leon Draisaitl line changes last night, how many times do we do that, and how many times a year is Stuart Skinner the one in net? It tends to be a lot. So it's a little frustrating in that effect that the rest of the team, outside of the bounces, outside of the goalie, seems to also play worse in front of Stuart Skinner. It's almost as if, right, the whole mentality that everybody sits here and chirps about on the outside looking in as fans, that we have to protect Stuart Skinner and make sure he faces as few shots as possible. The Oilers seem to take that to heart for, a period or maybe 30 minutes of a hockey game, and then all of a sudden it's just wholesale, everybody gets a chance to Skinner the rest of the way home. And you saw that last night. There were quite a few looks that the Vegas Golden Knights got as the game wore on that maybe the Oilers weren't leaking as often early in the game. So I just don't know what to sit here and tell you after another game 3 that Stuart Skinner starts his third game of the playoffs and gets defeated for the third time, and not like his numbers look really that much better. Probably his goals against average went down to 5.25, somewhere in there. Save percentage, probably not much of an increase after giving up 4 goals. It's frustrating, and I guess, like I'm saying, I'm sitting here blaming some other things that happen when Stuart Skinner's in net. And it's not like Stuart Skinner was all world last night. He did make one save, that big save right before we scored the 3-3 goal there. I think it was with 8:05 on the clock or something. And it was like, holy crap, Stuart Skinner made the save. This game's on. The Oilers, they're going to win this thing. And then Connor bounces it on off a Golden Knights skate, and it's like, there it is. There's the bounce we need. And, well, you just, because it's Stuart Skinner in net, you don't get the bounce to win. And the Golden Knights are the team that indeed do that and take home the Game 3 victory. What happens now for the Oilers and Golden Knights remains to be seen. Obviously, I think for the Golden Knights, the longer that Stuart Skinner starts in net for the Oilers in this series, the better. If Pickard comes back after his little recovery here, hopefully, on Monday night, well, I think the Golden Knights are going home down 3-1. That'd be the common theory there, at least. So we'll see what happens on that front. But at least for now, the Oilers again are left asking, how do we continue to hang out Stuart Skinner to dry? How does he continue to be so out of position, giving up the goals? Again, there's no defending pretty much any of those goals he gave up last night, and it was almost enough of a winning effort, which is credit to Stuart Skinner to realize, like, hey, I did a lot of my part. Again, I might not have been perfect, but I did my part, and we just didn't get a bounce. That's fair enough, but that is always how it goes with Stuart Skinner in net. So at some point, something has to change. And for the forwards and for everybody else, they just need to figure out, like, urgency is a thing that has to happen every single game in the playoffs. And for some reason, after 5 whatever years it's been in and out of the playoffs, the Oilers still, and it's top guns down, haven't figured out that the urgency has to be part of the game every shift, every moment, and winning things will happen. So we'll see if the Oilers have a better effort Monday. That's number one. And we'll see if Stuart Skinner ultimately ends up starting on Monday as well, with Calvin Pickard still recovering. And yeah, that's where we're left for game number 3, friends. Thank you so much for being aboard here today. Appreciate it. If you want to throw your thoughts down in the comments section, I'd always welcome that. I think a lot of you are seeing, starting in this playoff run at least, since I'm not live streaming, to kind of comment back and chat with you a little bit here, as it's been an interesting playoff run so far, and now we look forward to this series. It's officially on against Golden Knights, and what happens next really is anybody's guess. So Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard, who starts game 4, that could determine a lot. Friends, for right now though, I am up on out of here.